Dating after 40 isn't hard because you've forgotten how to date. It's hard because you're not the same woman you were the last time you tried. And nobody talks about that part. If you found yourself thinking about dating again after your divorce, or even just wondering if you're ready and it feels completely disorienting, you're not doing something wrong. You're not broken. You haven't missed a window. You've just changed deeply. And the version of dating you remember doesn't fit who you've become. Today, I want to talk about that, all of it. Hi, I'm Andrea Daley. I'm a certified coach, speaker, and author. And today, I want to have an honest conversation about something so many women in this season are quietly wondering, but not always saying out loud. Because dating after divorce, especially at 40, 50, or beyond, it's not just a different experience, it's a completely different world. And understanding why makes all the difference. Let's start right where you are. Maybe you've been thinking about dating again. Maybe someone suggested it. Or maybe you've been divorced for a year or 3 or 5 and you still can't quite imagine being with someone new. Or maybe you can imagine it, but the moment you start to think seriously about actually doing it, getting on an app, saying yes to a setup, telling someone you're interested, something inside you just freezes. And it's not nerves, not exactly. It's something harder to name than that. It feels like trying to wear an outfit you loved in your 20s and realize, it doesn't fit anymore. Not because something's wrong with the outfit, but you've changed. And the old version of this thing doesn't have room for who you are now. And that's what dating after divorce feels like for so many of us. And here's what I want you to hear, my friend. That feeling is not a sign that something's broken in you. It's not a sign that you'll never be ready. And it's not a sign that you've waited too long or that you're damaged or too complicated or too anything. It's a sign that you've lived, that you've grown, that you are not the same woman who dated in her 20s and you were never supposed to be. The disorientation isn't the problem. The disorientation is the information. Here's the part that most people don't talk about. When women say dating after divorce is hard, we usually hear the same explanation. You're out of practice, the world has changed, the dating apps are just overwhelming, and you know what? People are complicated. And sure, all of that's true, but that's not actually what makes it hard. For most of the women I work with, that's not the part that stops them in their tracks. What makes it hard, what makes it really hard, is that you are different. You spent years, maybe decades, inside of a marriage that shaped you. It shaped what you believe about yourself, what you think you deserve, what you're willing to accept, what you're afraid of, what you've learned to go without. And now you're standing on the other side of that, a different woman, more complicated, more self-aware, more wounded, and more wise. It's a more wise version of yourself. And your old dating rules, they were written for someone else, someone younger, someone who hadn't been through what you've been through. You need new ones. So let me give you 3 shifts I've seen change everything for women in this season. The first shift is this. You know your worth now. You might not always feel it, but somewhere underneath the self-doubt and the fear, there is a version of you that has lived long enough to know what it feels like to be unseen, to be undervalued, to make yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. You know what that costs you, and you've paid that bill, and because of that, you are not willing to pay it again. That's not arrogance, my friend. That's earned. You're not being too demanding. You're not expecting too much. You have simply stopped being willing to accept too little. The second shift is this. You know your wounds, and that's wisdom. Knowing where your wounds are is not a liability. It's one of the most valuable things you can bring into a relationship. Because here's what I know to be true. The most dangerous wounds aren't the ones we know about. They're the ones we've never looked at. The ones we're not even aware of yet. And you, my friend, you've looked at yours. You've sat with them. The third shift is this. You know what you won't accept anymore. And I need you to hear this clearly. That is not pickiness. That is clarity. There's a difference between having impossible standards and having healthy ones, between being closed off and being discerning, between giving up on love and refusing to accept a version of it that costs you your peace. You've done enough work to know the difference. Trust that. I want to share something personal with you for a moment. I had been with the same person for 36 years. I had 9 children. And when I let myself actually sit with the thought, could I date again? My first instinct wasn't excitement. It was this quiet, almost embarrassing question. Who would even want to date me? I was starting over in my 50s. I had a complicated life, a full one. And somewhere along the way, I had absorbed this idea that all of that made me less. That the things I'd been through made me harder to choose. And I want to tell you, that story was a lie. And if you're telling yourself a version of it, I need you to know it's a lie for you too. Because here's what I came to understand. The question was never, who would want me? The question, the real one, was, who do I want to become in this next chapter? And that question changed everything. It stopped being about whether I was enough for someone else. And it started being about who I was showing up as for myself. That shift from seeking approval to building identity, that is where it begins, my friend. So, where do we go from here? I'm not going to tell you to download a dating app. I'm not going to give you a list of dating tips. That's not what this is. What I want to leave you with today are 3 questions. And I want you to actually sit with them. Journal them if you journal. Think about them on a walk. Talk them through with someone you trust. These are the questions that I have watched change the starting point for so many women in this season. Question 1, who am I now? Not who I was in my marriage. Not who you were when you were building a life with someone else. Not who you became to make that relationship work. And not who you were performing. Who you are right now, today. What do you actually love? What do you need? What kind of life are you trying to build? You don't have to have all the answers, but you have to start asking the question. Question 2, what do I actually want my life to look like going forward? Not what do you think is realistic, not what do you think you're allowed to want, but what do you actually want? What would feel like a full life, a real one, 5 years from now? Because you cannot build towards something you haven't let yourself want yet. Question 3, what would you tell your best friend if she were exactly where you are right now? And this one matters because most of us are far harsher with ourselves than we would be with somebody we love. If your best friend came to you and said the things you say to yourself, I'm too old, I'm too broken, who would want me? What would you tell her? Now tell yourself that. You have lived through something hard, my friend. You're still here. You're still figuring it out. And you are still allowed to want more. More love, more connection, more life. On the other side of everything you've been through. You're not starting from zero. You are starting from experience, from everything you've learned, from every hard thing you've survived, and every quiet thing you've discovered about yourself in the in-between. And that is not a disadvantage. That is your foundation. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If this conversation is resonating with you, if you're in this season right now and you want a daily companion to walk alongside of you through it, I've left a link to my book, Navigating the In-Between, in the description. It's a 365 daily reflection written for exactly the woman you are right now, not to rush the process, just to help you move through it with a little more clarity, a little more courage, and a whole lot less alone. And if this video resonated with you, if I said something that made you feel even a little less alone in what you are carrying, I would love for you to leave a comment below. Tell me where you are with this. Are you thinking about dating again? Or are you not even ready yet? Are you somewhere in the in-between? I read every comment. So if you're not subscribed yet, I would love to have you. I share conversations like this every week to help women navigate life transitions with more clarity, confidence, and courage. You don't have to figure this out alone. And that's what this space is for. I'll see you next week.